Yeah, eastern side of Montana.
Heck yeah. Whereabouts?
We live in Billings.
I got you. Heck yeah.
Yeah. And you're in Texas, right?
Yeah, right around Weatherford, just right west of Weatherford, a little old community called Brock.
Cool. You from there?
Yes, sir. I grew up kind of northwest of here, about 3 hours, I guess. So from a little bitty dirt road, dotting the map, kind of a 600 people population town, Roby,
Okay.
Texas. Yeah.
That accent's thick, my man.
But everybody says I got an accent. I'm like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. Y'all got the accent, and I
Yeah.
sound,
Yep. I get that.
yeah,
Obviously I hit record, dude. I don't know a whole
perfect.
lot about you. These are my favorite episodes to do though, where we just kind of figure each other out and talk some shit. So if you're cool with that,
I
I
love
think
it.
it'll be perfect, man. But how much time you got? I just want to be respectful.
Oh shoot, we got whatever. We can just roll. Like I say, I got to go to that volleyball game here in a little while, but no big deal.
My man, cool. Yeah, we'll go roughly an hour, see how it goes. So
Yeah,
did you tell me you were working on a movie set or what do you got going
yeah,
on over there?
yeah. So the last 4 or 5 years, I've kind of got into helping around on the Yellowstone series and working on some westerns and doing that kind of stuff. And so it kind of because of Yellowstone, I mean that's pretty much. I got in with them on 1883 when they filmed it. I trained all the cows, or I took the cows that the production bought, and I got them gentle and got them where you could drive them and you could handle them and do that kind of stuff. And so ever since then, it's just kind of been one of those. It's they figured out what I could do, and and then I was around here, and so it just one thing led to another, and once they figure out, and then I started working stunts and started doing stunts for the stunt company, and it's been pretty cool. It's been a pretty cool last 5 years. So I've worked on Yellowstone, I've worked on 1883. I did stunts in 1923 season one. This year they called me and I took care and was the cattle manager for 1923 season two and did stunts as well. I've worked in stunts as well. Um, I went in the spring. I went to Florida and worked on a show and provided horses and did stunts on that show. And then came back, went to South Carolina to Charleston to work on the Civil War. It's actually I never saw the show before. It was a HBO series called Righteous Gemstones, and I didn't know much about it. They told me when they called me it was a Civil War deal, but it's a modern show. But they just do every season they do a flashback, and so they flash back to the guy's great granddad, I guess, or maybe his granddad, or probably great granddad. But Civil War, he was in the Civil War, so we went down there and worked stunts and did that for about a month, and then came home and they called me to go to 1923, and I've been down there since July 15th, and Bobby. July 15th, and we'll wrap up in Texas on the 27th of September, and then they're gonna go to Montana and finish filming up there. I might go up there and do some stunts, but right now I don't have any plans to go up there. I'm gonna stay around here and kind of work around the house. So
Where at in Montana, do you know?
the Livingston Butte right in there. Butte, I
Yeah.
guess. Last year we were at Butte. So
Yeah, because they filmed I know one scene specifically was like right downtown Livingston,
yeah.
for Yellowstone. The one when they were like, I don't know if they were like picketing or rioting, but the girl like
Yeah,
threw
it
the
was. They were
rock. Remember
riding.
that?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
animal rights and the environmental PETA people were riding. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was in Livingston. So on 1883, we stayed in Livingston, but we filmed at Wilsaw, like right
Okay.
under the crazies. We were
Yep,
out
yep.
there, kind of right under the crazies, and beautiful country,
Oh yeah.
beautiful. Oh my gosh, it got pretty cold too while we were up there. It was
Hmm.
pretty gnarly there for a few weeks.
Tell me something that tell everybody something that they might not know, like behind the scenes working on a show like that. I mean, it's cool, like we get to watch it on TV, but we don't really see behind the scenes shit. And I don't know anybody that's done movies or shows or anything like that. So you're my guy for this one. Tell me something
Yeah,
interesting.
I guess what most people don't see and don't understand is how many people it takes. It'll blow your mind on just the number of people and the number of trucks and trailers and just everything, that goes along, like 300 to 400 people on set every day. And you got to figure out like bathrooms, I mean, like chem cans, porta johns. They got to figure out, water, cool, just things to drink and the food, the catering, all the things, and like how fast they can set up. They can set it all up, and then within 6 hours, it's gone. Like you don't even know it was there. It is very impressive. It's very cool. And another thing, a lot of people they think, oh, you get to work on the movies. It is a long, hard, grueling, lots of hours, and it's just back to back to back to back. It's just when you start, you might have 200 days worth of filming. Well, you might work 14, 16-hour days, just 6 days a week for that, 200 days, and then there's days towards the end of the week, they'll go to you have to have so much time between when they wrap you. So they wrap you on Tuesday at say 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 7 o'clock. I don't know. But you have to have a turnaround, what they call a turnaround. So 8 hours or 10 hours, depending on where you're at. And so towards the end of the week, they'll bump it, bump it, bump it, and then they'll mainly do like night shoots on Thursday, Friday, and like Saturday. So because of the turnarounds, because it just keeps getting later, your turnaround, you come into work later in the day because you're working later in the afternoon, and so it's a grueling, like it gets grueling, like you put 90 hours a week in. Like one of my checks on this show was 92 hours in 6 days, and so it's like people think, oh, you just go kind of hang out, and there's a lot to it. I mean, it is grueling once you get down to the nitty gritty of it. It'll wear you out for sure. It'll make you want to go home and stay for a week or two.
Yeah, I bet. And especially if you're doing stunts too. I mean, it's not like you're gonna nail it on the first go at it either.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
So
know.
doing stunts, like most of the stunts I've done is like fight scenes or gunfights or like taking a bullet and taking saddle falls or foot falls. And you take a saddle fall, it's pretty brutal, I mean, you're just hitting, and everybody thinks, oh, you hitting a pad or you hitting a mattress, or it's dirt. Like I have yet for anybody to say, hey, I'll put you a pad down there, but and I mean, even if you're running across there horseback and somebody shoots you, I mean, like it's very hard to hit a certain spot, because everything doesn't time up just right every time. And so you sell it and come off and hit the dirt, and you get up and you dust yourself off and you go get back on. If you didn't hit it and they didn't get it, you go do it again. That third or fourth time, you're like, whoo, let's hurry up and make sure we get this one because this shit sucks. So
Yeah,
lots
no
of
doubt.
injuries, lots of bruises, lots of soreness. I mean, like you stay sore. I mean, it's a grueling little old game, and man, them old timers, you can tell it too when they come walking up. You're like, golly, all the surgeries and all the bangs and broken bones and different things. It's pretty cool to talk to those older guys that have been doing it for 20, 30 years and to see where the stunt industries come from and where it is now up into what they used to do. They tell you stories and you're like, what? That's crazy, but it's pretty cool.
Not to get into your pockets or anything, but I feel like that could be pretty lucrative. I
It
mean, they
is.
gotta
It
they
is.
gotta pay you good. I mean, you're laying a lot down.
Yeah, no, they pay good, and and that's one reason a lot of guys do it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost it's almost to the point where it's like it's almost drug money, kind of type payment. And like for a cowboy like myself, that's all I've ever done is just, I've either welded or punched cows or, blue collar labor. I mean, yeah, when they call and tell you, hey, we'll put you on a weekly contract at 4,500 a week and you come do some stunts. And then every time you do that stunt, you get a stunt adjustment, depending on how difficult it is and how good you do. The stunt coordinator, he might give you a $600 stunt adjustment on that day. So you might get an extra 600 from that day. And then the residuals that come back, just like you come home from a show and you got a desk full of checks, residual checks. So every time that show airs or every time it sells, you get a little bit of it back. So it's nice, I mean, I tell everybody that I go do that so I can punch cows and cowboy for
I
for
love
fun.
that. Hell
Yeah,
yeah. How old
yeah.
are you, man?
50. I'll be
Are you
50
really?
next April. I mean, I figure I'm 49, but in April I'll be 50.
I love doing this show, man. I talk to so many different people of all different ages. Like you're a cowboy, 50. You don't look 50, dude. You look about 40.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
absolutely.
I mean, I've tried to take care of myself in the last 20 years, especially the last 20 years. My first 20 years was pretty damn hard, but for the first
You're in,
30
I
years
was on
was
your
pretty
page.
good.
You're in real good shape, man. It looks
Yeah,
like
I
are you
appreciate it.
married?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I
You
was
and your
married to
wife,
my
yeah.
wife. My wife just came in. She's leaving, but we own a CrossFit gym. That's what she does. She CrossFits and
Oh yeah.
she coaches and does that. And like it's just our life. That's what we do. So it's like it's cool to be able to have the access to what we have, just the knowledge of I've got 5 or 6 coaches just right down the road, and we got a full on 7,800 square foot gym and got a 50, 60 foot rig, and got all the weights, and so I can go down there and work out whenever. And have the knowledge to help me, if I need something, I can ask for it, and so that's very cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. Good on you.
Yeah, yeah.
I did not know that. That's kind of why I like doing as little research as possible for these types of episodes because I like to learn as we go. So
Right on,
that's
right on. What do you do for working out?
what do I do for working out? Everything. It's funny, dude, because I coach dudes all over the country. It's like virtual training is what I
Yeah.
do with my company. And so I'm making hundreds of workouts a week, right? And then I get that question a lot, like, what do you do, Tyler? Dude, I get in there and I fucking wing it half the time, honestly. Like I don't follow a plan. I get in there. I know what I'm genuinely gonna or like
Right.
generically like what I'm gonna do. But half the time I'm just feeling it out and just because I spend so much time working on other shit for other people, where it's like I'm just gonna take something from this guy and take something from this guy and combine it and then,
Oh, yeah.
kick myself in the dick in the process. So yeah, a little bit of everything, man. A little bit of everything.
Yeah. I was the same way. I'll do a CrossFit workout once or twice. I might do the partner workout on Saturdays. We have like a Saturday partner workout, and I might do that just for shits and giggles. But if I go down there to work out, I just kind of I box a little bit, I'll spar, and then I'll jump rope. And then just same way. I might work out. I might do the CrossFit workout, or I might just do bro lifting. I mean, it just
Yep, I'm
depends.
the
I do
same way.
whatever. So yeah,
Yep, I'm the
same,
same way.
same.
What was let's kind of go to the beginning. What was your upbringing like, man? I feel like you have a lot of life lessons that you can maybe share on here throughout our conversation, but what was your upbringing like growing up? And I'll come up with some questions once you
Okay.
explain that.
All right, cool. So I grew up in Roby, like I said, a little old 416 population. We lived on a dirt road, kind of outside of town. My dad was a cowboy. My dad was one of those guys that could do anything, and he did do everything and anything to make a living. So you're talking about like when I started remembering kind of what we were doing is in the 80s. Like I was born in 75. So about 80, 81, I kind of really started, that I have a memory up until about, back to there. And so my dad, he broke a lot of colts for the public. Like guys just, they'd send him horses to start and he would do that. He rodeoed a little bit when he grew up as a young man. He rodeoed, he rode bareback, he rode kids, he rode bulls, just so that kind of lifestyle. And so, when I remember he had a welding truck, he would go weld and then he would work in the oil field and then he would come home in the afternoon. He'd ride colts for the public. And then, on the weekends, he might go catch a cow for somebody or he might go to a rodeo, I mean, and that's what we did. My mother worked for the Postal Service. And so she carried the mail. She was a mail carrier in a little community next, about 30 minutes from us. And so we kind of grew up in that. My granddad farmed, had a few cows all the time, and just kind of did that. And so we grew up in that agricultural environment, small town, country boy, I guess is what you would say. Of course, I grew up hunting and fishing. My granddad loved to hunt and fish, and so he would always take us and we'd go fish. I mean, that's all my granddad wanted to do was hunt and fish, and so that was cool. I got to do that. So that's kind of the life I grew up in. Of course, little league kicked around. I started playing baseball, and then kind of the sports took off from that. And once, of course, being in a small community, small town, you played every sport. When I got to junior high, I mean, you ran track, you played basketball, you played football, you were in the band, you did everything because it was just something to do. I mean, it
Sold
was
hot dogs at halftime.
right, exactly. Whatever you needed to do. Like, I remember it's crazy for people to even think about it now, but when I was even in high school, like you were in band and you played football. Well, hell, I started on varsity as a sophomore, and well, at halftime you would go in, you would take your pads off, and you would get your instrument and you would go march on the field, because there wasn't enough in the band. If you weren't there, if the football players weren't there, there wasn't enough to do it. So, that's it. And nowadays people are like, what? That's weird as hell. But that's what we did. And so I kind of grew up in that. Of course, grew up around horses and grew up around cattle and but kind of once athletics took off, that's kind of where I focused all my time. We moved. My dad took a job running a rail car plant where they rebuild tanker cars and box cars. He was a purchasing agent for them as he started as a purchasing agent, and then he moved into the plant manager. And so we moved about 35 miles kind of north of where I grew up, and we sold our horses, sold all our saddles, sold our trailers, and we were into sports. My dad was like, if y'all aren't going to use them, we're just going to get rid of them. And I imagine at that time, too, we were probably needing some money to pay the mortgage, I don't know. But so we got rid of that. Well, sports kind of took over my life about then. I really got into sports and football and basketball and track and I worked a part-time job after school at a little convenience store, and it was still a small community town. I'd go to school and practice football, and then at 6 o'clock I'd go to the convenience store and I'd close it down at midnight, when I was turned 15, 16, and do that, and just so I could pay for gas and a pickup. And so that was kind of my life. And then decided I wanted to go to college. Tried college for a couple of years and just didn't fit me. I was more into the beer drinking, running, chasing girls, of course, and I didn't go to school much. And but my outdoor life kind of took off then. And right there at the end of the high school, I hunted and fished a lot with some good friends of mine, and I got to guiding for a outfitter that was in around whitetail outfitting about that time. And so my cousin guided for him, and I would go on the weekends and I would skin deer and I would help the cook and I would help clean up and that kind of stuff. And I did that for a couple of years during high school during the hunting season. And when I went to college, the outfitter called me. My first year at college, that first fall, he called me and he said, "Hey, you want to go to New Mexico and guide for me?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." So I was enrolled in college, but I just rolled my shit up and left. Didn't tell nobody, didn't just left. I mean, because I knew my parents would be pissed. And so I went to New Mexico. We went up around Chama, New Mexico, Tierra Maria, and he had about 80,000 acres leased up there. And so I guided mule deer hunts and elk hunts and never been in that part of the world before, but I loved hunting and I loved everything about it. And so I kind of got into that, and that was kind of what fueled me for the next 4 or 5 years. I worked for him full time as a guide. And the first year I just was part time, just when he needed me, and then I went to work for him full time. So I worked for him year round, and pretty much just traveled around and went and scouted ranches. We did whitetail hunts, we did elk hunts, we did sheep hunts. When I say sheep hunts, Texas sheep hunts, which all dad. We did quail hunting, we did turkey hunting, I mean, we hunted year round. And so I would go scout ranches for him and survey ranches and count deer and whatnot. And I did that for 5 years full time for him, and kind of developed my hunting, I guess, attitude, and really, really got into the big game, I guess, Western hunting. Like I could care less about shooting a whitetail over a deer feeder. It's like all I wanted to do was go out west and chase elk and mule deer and bears and like what sheep, just whatever I could do. And so I did that a lot, and just hung out. Like, man, I had a good life. I hung out. He paid me cash. He paid me $100 a day. He paid for everything, and I didn't have any bills. I mean, I loved it, and so I did that for a long time. And then we were coming back from Chama, New Mexico one year, and one night actually, and his kids were getting into high school, and he was missing out a lot on all their sports and whatnot. And so he told me, "I'm done after this year. I'm gonna hang it up." And he had been guiding and outfitting for 25 plus years. And he said, "I'll turn it over to you if you want it. I'll book the hunts. I'll give you my clientele. I'll book the hunts and you can run the hunts." And I think I was 22 at that time. And I was pretty damn wild, I mean, like I didn't have much, I didn't have anything, holding me back, holding me down. I was pretty free. And I just was like, man, I'm not responsible enough to take grown men that are paying a lot of money to go hunting when I'm 22 years old and all I want to do is drink beer and whiskey and hunt and go chase women. I mean, that's pretty much what I wanted to do. And so I told him, I said, "Man, I better not." And he said, "All right." He said, "Well, I'll just shut it down." And I went to work. So one of my good friends was a guide for him in Texas on whitetail. He worked for Lone Star Gas. as a construction guy. He was a crew foreman on a Lone Star gas crew there in Abilene. And so when all that went down, hell, I didn't have a job. I didn't have nothing to fall back on, And he said, hell, I can get you on as a construction, with me on the Lone Star Gas. So I was like, yeah. So I went to work for Lone Star Gas on a construction crew, running a backhoe and repairing leaks and putting in gas line in Abilene, Texas. And then I did that for about a year, year and a half. TU Electric bought Lone Star Gas about that same time, and I chased a girl to Fort Worth, and me and her were dating, and I was running back and forth to Fort Worth every weekend, and so I put in for a job when TU Electric, when they bought Lone Star Gas, I put in for a job over the computer as a lineman in Fort Worth just to get me closer up here. Well, I got the job, and so I moved to Fort Worth, and I lived with her for, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 months. And of course, it didn't work out because we wasn't doing we were together then, and so I climbed poles for TU Electric in Fort Worth and west of Fort Worth for about 5.5 years, I guess, and just kind of got sick of working in town, got sick of not being in the country, got sick of not being around the Western environment. And just kind of that's where I felt like I needed to go back to. And so I walked in one day and told them I gave them my 2 weeks notice and I quit. And I'd made enough friends around this area, which is around Weatherford, Aledo, Benbrook, around that area that I had a place leased and I had a set of pens and a horse barn. And I was like, you know what? I think I can go back to riding colts and just day working and cowboying. And so I did. And that was 20 plus years ago, I guess. And that's kind of what I've done the last 20, 25 years, 23 years is just I started back riding colts and day working and kind of got my name back out there and just kind of went on that path. And that's where I've stayed. That's where I've been the most comfortable. That's where I feel at home. And so for the last 22 years, all I've done is just cowboy. And then kind of, I shouldn't say that because the last 5 years I've gotten into the movie gig deal, but it's still cowboy into me. I mean, that's
Yep.
where I go to do. So that's kind of my life. I got married a year ago. I was married. We were married 6 years, I believe. We had a boy when he was two. So I have a son, and when he was two, we got divorced. My first wife and I got divorced, and I was running a big ranch in right in the edge of Fort Worth, and was there for about 16 years, and managed and ran it. And he grew up with me on the ranch right there. Then I left there. That place got too expensive by the acre, too close to town, and they sold it and subdivided it. And I moved off on my own. It was time for me to go do my own deal. I'd put a few lease places together on my own, and I'd bought a few cows and kind of felt like I could do it on my own and didn't have to have a full-time job working for somebody. And so I moved out, moved off and leased me a place and with a house on it. And I run my own cows and I day work and go help somebody. And like I say, I kind of like my dad. I got a welder, I got a welding rig. And so I could go weld and build fence if I needed to, or build barns or cowboy or do whatever I needed to do. So that's kind of what I've done up until the movie gig kicked in. And I still do quite a bit of that. Like, hell, I rebuilt a barn for a guy the other before I got on this movie. I mean, so it's been a cool deal. It's one of those deals I always say, if you're gonna be a cowboy, you better be able to do everything because one of these you'll starve to death if you're just depending on cowboy wages. And so it's been a pretty cool circle, I guess, coming all the way back around and now hit the movie deal and kind of I get to do that 4, 5, 6 months out of the year, and then I punch cows the rest of the time and hunt a little bit here, go there, do whatever. So it's been a cool awakening, I guess, or roundabout trip. So that's pretty long, but that's a short version of it.
You're an opportunist, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. Kind of like a coyote, man. I just show up when something's available and eat it and go on. So
I like that analogy too. Was your old man tough on you growing up?
yeah, yeah, he was that. My family was pretty rough, not tough to the point where it's abusive, but you didn't
Yeah.
you didn't stray too far off the path, or you get your ass whooped. And I mean, that's what I tell a lot of people. I've had my ass whooped with about everything you could possibly have your ass whooped if you can think it on the farm, from a set of bridle reins to a rope to a quirt to a piece of PVC pipe to a water hose. I mean, like if you messed up, you got your ass whooped, you got reprimanded, and there wasn't no joke about it. My mom was probably harder on us than my dad. He was pretty chill. When it got time for dad to do it, I mean, it's a typical deal. Like dad let you push him a little bit further, but when it came to a head, you better, you better grab your ass because he was fixing to either put a boot up it or he was going to take his belt off or he'd pick up a rope and double it over and like he got your attention.
You notice how nobody says these stories anymore? Like
Yeah,
pretty much
no, I totally
anybody,
get it.
like my age, like, yeah, I experienced that, not to that extent, but like
Yeah,
pretty much anybody younger than me, I'm 30. Like you don't hear that at
no,
all.
sir, not at all,
At all.
not at all. And,
Because I used
and,
to get
and I
my
think
ass
that's a
whooped. If I
detriment
wouldn't have,
to our I think
go
that's a
ahead.
detriment to our world. That's a detriment to
Yeah,
our society. I mean, people don't have any consequences. Like I knew, I mean, I was one of those that, of course, I push it, but I knew that I was going to be accountable for my actions, and I knew that. I mean, I
right.
knew it when I did what I did, and I knew, yeah, it's fun right now, and it's pretty cool, but man, if I ever get caught, I'm going to get my ass whooped. Man, I'm cool with that. I mean, that's what I
Yeah.
say to my boy, and I raise my boy. I say, you're free to do anything you want to do, make any choice you want to make, and do anything you want to do, but you are accountable for your actions, and you will be responsible for those actions. And if you know you're going to get your ass whooped for not coming in on time or doing whatever it might be, then that's fine as long as you're accountable and you're man enough to stand up and go, yeah, all right, I did it, let's take the punishment. And that's kind of my era was that was kind of what it was. It was like you could do it, but you had to be man enough to take the punishment.
Yeah, you're gonna feel it.
Right, I mean, so get after it if that's what you want to do. I mean, you knew the rules and you knew what happened when you break the rules. So whatever, like, hell yeah, get after it. If it's that fun, then here in a minute, you're fixing to get your ass whooped over it. So,
Yeah,
I wish our world was still like that. I think it would make our world a lot better place to live in for sure.
me too. Yeah, it's that old saying, you gotta dance with the girl you brought, you know what I mean?
That's right, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't hear these stories hardly at all from anybody younger than me. A lot of guys that I know weren't raised like that. I'm
Right.
thankful that I got my ass whooped because I was a little shit. And like my
Right.
mom, when my mom was alive, she would always use my dad as like, hey, when he gets home, you're gonna get dealt with. I'm like, fuck, I am gonna get dealt with, aren't I? But that was good for me, man. Like
Yeah,
that's part of the reason why I am and why I am who I am and how I act the way that I act.
no
You had to
doubt.
you had to feel that. So
No doubt. I mean, everybody says like this whole internet deal. If people still got punched in the face for saying shit that people didn't like, then it'd be a lot different, and it's not the case anymore. It everybody gets away with everything and then they just start it just starts adding to that. It just starts increasing. It's like, hey, you should have had your ass whooped the first time you mouthed off. I mean, you should have got punched right in the nose. And a lot of people ain't never been punched in the face. I mean, like younger than me, younger than you, they ain't never been punched in the face because it's so hard nowadays. If you do punch somebody in the face over some shit that they did or said, then you're more trouble than you're in more trouble. So it's like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's a messed up world we live in a lot of times. And then it's like you can go to certain places and it's just like it was back when I grew up, but you got to go find those little communities or those little dirt road ranch communities or farming communities, small town, where there are guys like you and I that were raised that way, that are still raising their family that way, and still raising their kids that way. But there's places like that. It's just you got to go search them out and find them. So,
Yeah, I had a thing. I don't think I ever got in like my first legitimate fight until probably like eighth or ninth grade.
right.
But I was like seeking them out because I knew that like you had to get in fights growing up or I was going to be a soft little bitch. So I was like purposely like talking shit and like just like being super short fused for the purpose of being like, hey, I might get my ass whooped. And I did
Yeah.
on multiple occasions, but I also won a few too. But like you have to get your ass whooped at least a couple times growing up, I feel like, or you're just like I feel like you're gonna be in trouble.
I totally agree with you. I totally
Yeah.
agree with you because people don't understand, if it's just like that. If you've never been punished, you've never been told no, you've never been told, hey, don't do that, or and nothing, and you went ahead and did it, and nothing happened to you.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what difference does it make? Well, it makes a big difference. Somebody, there's always somebody going to be out there in this world that's going to go, you know what? I don't give a fuck if I do go to jail. I am going to whoop the fuck out of you if you talk to
Mhm.
me like that. And that, I mean, they're fewer and fewer in between, but hell, back when I grew up, when I was 20, 22 years old, like you didn't walk into a bar and you better mind your P's and Q's because there were 15 or 20 of them old timers sitting there that would strum your ass and nobody and leave you over in the corner. Nobody ever called the law. Nobody, like, you drag yourself out of there. And
Mhm.
and like the next time you walked in a place and you seen that, you're like, oh, I better mind my business, like mind my P's and Q's.
Mhm.
Or you went over there and you mouthed off and you tried to get bigger and better and try to figure out how to fight. I mean, that was just deal, just depending on what you wanted to be, what you wanted to do. So yeah, I think it's a something we're missing in our society nowadays. If they, it's like, I think if they let it go back and it's like, oh well, it's okay to whoop somebody's ass now, it'd be a lot better life. Yeah, exactly. That phone.
Everybody wants to get cute on these things, and
Yeah,
there's no
exactly.
repercussion at all for talking shit on
Exactly.
these fucking phones, man.
No
At
doubt.
at all. And
No doubt.
it's sad. Like my dad used to tell me stories about, and you know this, he's a little bit older than you, but I mean, back in the day, you used to just handle it. You'd go into
Yeah,
the alley, you'd fucking handle it, and then you'd go back in and buy each other a beer.
right.
You know what I mean? And like that
Exactly.
never, ever, ever happens.
No.
Um, the funniest thing when I was growing up, we were in college. I had a buddy in the military, and he's like, dude, if people start talking shit to you, he's like, call them out. He's like 99% of the time they're gonna coward. That
Oh yeah.
1% you might have to fight and you might get your ass whooped. You might pick the wrong guy, but call somebody out.
No doubt.
And then I started doing it and I was like, dude, nobody ever wants to fight. He's like, I
No.
fucking told you, everybody just talks. And this was only,
Everybody.
10 years ago, or, 8, 10 years ago when I was in school, but it was so true. But you had to be prepared to actually fight if that person was game. And sometimes they were, but very, very little. Very little.
No doubt.
So,
No doubt. That's what I tell somebody, that here and there. And of course, the older I get, the less I'm in that environment and situation. But not too
yep.
long ago, a guy was running his mouth, and I'm like, hey, there's an alley right out here.
Hmm.
We'll walk right out there and we can fucking box. I
Hmm.
said, I don't have a problem with it. Let's go. You tough guy, you run in your face, and he'd been drinking. I don't drink at all anymore. But and so I was stone cold sober, and which is what's the craziest thing to me is I'm like, he's a older guy than me, and he's an out of shape son bitch, and he was drunk. And I'm like, dude, I am sober. I'm stone cold sober. I am in pretty damn good shape for my age. And like I told him, I said, we walk right out here. I know there's an alley out there. I've been in that son bitch back in my 20s. So I said, we can walk right out that door and we're in that alley and we can go out there and box. And I promise you, it'll all be done. And I said, one of us will walk back in here and one of us won't. And I bet you will still be in the alley when we get done. I said, I might be wrong, but let's walk out here. And it completely changed him. Like he didn't want to go, And I'm like, oh yeah, now you don't want to. Okay, cool. All right,
Yeah.
shut up. You be
Yep.
quiet. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah, you're right. Nobody wants you call them out. They have 99% of them will cower down. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, no, 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 never mind.
Yep. So I did like a Q and A on online. This was probably a couple months ago when your name got brought up. That's why I followed you
Yeah.
and sent you that video to come on. I forget who it was, but shout out to that person because I'm having a blast thus far, man. But I was
I
going through
bet.
your page again, kind of before we jumped on. This was a little bit last minute. So you have a lot of really good content and you post really nice messages behind some of the content. I wrote one down here if you'd like to elaborate on it. Um, but on one of your posts a while back, you said there's two traps that we must avoid. One of them being caring what they think, and then two, thinking that they care. Can you
Yes, sir.
elaborate on that?
Yeah, I can. So that kind of comes from, oh, I mean, it's just like anything, whether you're in play football or basketball or whatever your area is, when you become where somebody when you become somebody that people look up to or look towards for inspiration or knowledge or expertise or whatever you want to call it, when you have a little bit of notoriety, fame, I don't know what you call it. It's hard for me to say I'm famous because I don't feel like I'm famous. I'm just Buster. I mean, like I am who I am. Yes, I have quite a few followers on Instagram, social media. Yes, I mean, it is. But my industry, my world where I've been in, I'm respected and I've won a lot of different things. I mean, I've been there, done that, competed against other guys, and come out on top a lot of the times. Is what I guess I'll put it that way. And so I've learned in the last few years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever you want to call it, that those people get jealous. A lot of people get jealous. A lot of people they want you to do well. And I said this on another podcast.
I was gonna bring this up. That was another point I
Yeah,
had.
I said this on another podcast. I figured out that a lot of people that you're around, they want you to do well, but they don't want you to do better than them. And once you get over them or they feel like you're over them, then they try to drag you back down to where they are. And they don't want you doing better than them. Yeah, I want you to be successful, but I don't want you to be that quite that successful. And so they either try to sabotage you by talking shit, they either try to sabotage you by spreading rumors, any little thing that they can bring you back down and hurt your reputation or feel like that they've made it eat back even. And so that's kind of where that quote come from was like, yeah, everybody wants you to do well, but nobody wants you to do better than them. And there's a lot of haters out there. And to listen to what they say is detrimental to your mentality and what your progression. And to think that they even fucking care in the first place is another thing because they don't. Nobody gives a shit what I do on a Tuesday afternoon if I'm down at the gym doing 10 sets of 100 push ups. Nobody gives a fuck. But so it's like, what difference does it make? Why don't tell them what you're doing and you don't have to care what they say you're doing? So that's kind of where that came from.
No, I like that. And I it a big thing with it is social media, right? Because people you can show everybody exactly what you want them to see.
Right.
Same with me, right?
Yep.
Nobody gives a shit that I'm doing a podcast on a what is today? Tuesday at 12:30 Mountain.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares that I got up at 5 this morning, went to the gym, got my shit in, right?
Yeah.
This is just my life. Um, and social media can be a huge, huge problem in that regard, especially when you do have a little bit of success and you do show that. A lot of these people that I notice that, you know, maybe we'll start talking or maybe not inquire about like, hey man, congrats or stuff like that is people that for the most part have been on the journey with you, have been following, have been quote unquote, not necessarily a friend, but somewhat of a fan. And then when they see you start to accomplish things, then they just either get completely quiet and don't like your stuff, or they start talking shit behind your back. And it's so odd to me.
Me and you both. It blows, and a lot of the time I feel like it's the people that are closest to you.
My point. It's my
And it
point.
blows my mind because there's people that I do not know that I've never shaken their hand. They're my biggest fans, and
Right.
there's family members that talk shit about me because I'm actually done something and I'm semi-successful. It's like it blows your mind because it's like it should be totally the opposite, and
Yeah.
it's not. Like it's just like wow.
And
And it's a
like,
hard thing mentally to overcome because, like you and I mean, I don't begrudge anybody doing well. Hell yeah, if you're my brother and you're kicking ass, I'm gonna be boosting you up because I feel like that's what it takes. I mean, it takes some people to help you get along, and there's no doubt about it that. And then those people get there just like what you say, and they're like, "Oh no, that's bullshit." Yeah, and then they start feeling ill towards you, and then they start talking shit about you, and then they quit liking your shit, and you're like, "What the hell, man?" They don't. They
because you know they're seeing it.
be wary of those that don't clap when you succeed. There you go. That's one of those,
Yeah.
It's like, huh, okay.
Yeah. And what really bothers me about it is even if they are people close to you or maybe friends, do you not want your friends to be successful?
Right.
do you want to hang out with a bunch of non-successful quote unquote losers? Like what? I
Yeah,
don't want to hang out with anybody that doesn't accomplish their goals.
I totally agree. I
What the
totally
fuck?
yeah, it's mind-boggling, and
It
I don't know,
is.
like it is fucking mind-boggling to me.
Yeah,
I'm
it
right there
makes
with you.
no sense to me. I have a and I know he doesn't listen to the show. Maybe he listens every week. I have no idea. But I have an old friend. I'm not going to drop names, but like we grew up together. We grew up hunting, playing sports, and for whatever reason, he just like does not want to talk to me anymore. I've checked in on him multiple times. I've gone back home to Michigan and have hit him up. Um, and he's always too busy, always got something going on, and it's all bullshit excuses.
Mhm.
And he's like a big time hunter, like I am, and he'll never like my shit. Like if I kill an elk or if I kill an antelope or anything, a mule deer, I don't know if he's jealous. I don't know if he's bummed that he can't be out here, but like it makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And every time I see him post something and him killing something, I'm like commenting on it, freaking trying to pump him up, and it's like, what the fuck? Like I don't,
Uh-huh. I know
dude.
it's
I just it bothers me. I won't lie, it bothers me. Like I
it
don't
is
get it.
it's hard. And it's hard for it not to bother you, and it finally gets to a point where it's like, I'm done with that. I'm not gonna let it. I'm not gonna
Right.
let it affect me. I'm not gonna let it bother me. I'm gonna go on and do my deal, But man, and it'll come back around and it'll kick you right in the eye. It's like, okay, one time, like 6 months it hadn't bothered you, and then something happens and it like stings again. It's like, man, and it'll gradually get where it doesn't sting anymore, and where you don't even. It's kind of like that old saying that I heard: "Quit calling and see who's calling you."
Yeah.
Pretty much the same. You can quit calling and see what happens. Those motherfuckers that still want to be your friends, that are true blue friends, they be
Yeah.
calling you, going, "Hey, what's up? Where you been, man? What's going on?" Well, them ones that weren't, them ones that were fake, you won't ever hear from them again, and then they'll blame you because
Right.
you don't ever call them anymore. Well, the phone works two ways, motherfucker. You can dial out just as you can receive one. And so, like, yeah, quit calling and see what happens. It'll show you who your true friends are. That's for no doubt.
And then, like you said, there's people that I've never met on here, and my platform's not as big as yours, but the people that do rock with me, like they're really invested. Like they're all over my shit, DMing me. I try to respond to all my messages, and I've never met these motherfuckers, and they're just like, "Dude, congratulations," or like, you got him on the podcast or whatever, and I'm like, "Dude, I don't know you from Adam. Like, you could walk into my studio right now, and I have no idea who you are, but thank you. Like, that's
Yeah,
cool." So
yeah,
it's so
very cool.
it's
Like it
yeah,
blows
it's
your
so
mind.
it does, yeah. And that's I don't know about you, Buster, but that's kind of why I have it's not kind of why, it's exactly why my circle, dude, it's extremely tight, very, very small.
Oh,
Like,
and it'll get smaller and smaller the older you get. I
yeah,
mean, because you fade them out, you phase them out, you fade them out, and it
yep.
does. It gets smaller and smaller, and it's kind of one of those things where you look up and you're like, my wife said the other day, she was like, nobody ever calls us to go do anything. Like, why? And I said, because the people that I really, really trust and I really, really want to be around, and the same with her now, I mean, she's starting to get the same deal because she's successful in her CrossFit business.
Hmm.
She's got a big gym, she's getting members, and she's starting to see that. Well, now, her old friends or acquaintances, whatever you want to call them, they're jealous of what she has. They're jealous of what she does, and they're jealous of how she does it. And so it's like it in the end, those few that you got in the palm of your hand, those are the only ones you need anyways. I mean, like
Yeah.
those are the only ones that are going to be there at the end anyways. When you're in that hole and you need to be drug out, or you need to go dig a hole and bury somebody, you're only going to call those few anyways. So it's like, that's it. That's it. That's the only ones you need.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, and and like I'm not gonna get on here and you're the same way. I already know. It's like we're not on here being like we fucking made it. We did this. We've done this. It's
No.
like I brought this up in a maybe an episode a week or two ago. I don't think we touched on it a crazy amount, but I saw this quote. Um, this guy Chris Williamson, he runs a podcast. A lot of guys probably are familiar with him, but he said that. I think this was a quote that he heard, but the quote was like, people are jealous of your success, but they're never jealous of what it took to gain that success. And that really, I was like, but both the guys on the pod were like, holy shit. And I listened to it and I'm like, holy shit, that's so freaking true.
Yeah.
Because we work
No,
hard, man. Like
no
people
doubt.
don't see this behind the scenes shit that I do with the pod or all the hours and gas that I spent trying to kill these animals and shit like what you're doing, these 14-hour days on a movie set, breaking your back, falling off horses, and nobody sees that, dude.
No,
They just
no,
say that, oh, he was on Yellowstone. That's all they
yeah,
see.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. That is totally, totally, totally true. They don't, nobody wants, everybody wants your success, but nobody wants to put the hard work in to get it because it's out there. You can go, anybody can do what you do, anybody can do what I do. Just go fucking do it. I
Yeah.
mean, if you think it's that simple, you think it's that easy, you think that I'm just got lucky. Dude,
Yeah.
I've been doing this shit for 25 years. I
Yeah.
mean, like working my ass off to be where I am today, 25 years, like fucking 14, 16, 18-hour fucking days, 7 days a week. There's days that I ain't had, there's days I ain't had $10 in my bank account, and trying to figure out how I'm going to get to the next job. And, it's just like you grind and grind and grind and grind, and people don't see that. When you get successful, when they start seeing you, that's all they see. That's all they, oh, look at that guy. He's sponsored by Polaris. Like, fucking lucky bastard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a reason.
Yeah.
It's not just, they didn't just fucking flip a number up and my name came up. I mean, there's a reason for that. And it's just like in anything. I mean, if you don't work out, I was fixing to say that. Like, the first time they see somebody sees you and they see you're jacked and you're ripped and you're big and you're all that, it's because you're on steroids.
Yep.
It ain't because you go to the gym and work out every fucking day, 6 days a week, 2 hours.
Yep.
It ain't because you're busting your ass in the kitchen eating right, where they're eating fucking cheeseburgers and coconut pies, and you're in there eating fucking sandwich, a damn tuna fish sandwich and celery.
Yep.
They don't see that. It's just, oh, it's because he's on steroids. That's why that's a mistake of steroids. Well, get out of here, man.
Yeah.
Like,
They don't,
come
they
get up
don't,
with me. Go. Come go with
yeah.
me.
Yep.
But then it gets to the point where you think that, and then it's like, I don't, whatever, man. I just laugh at them from now. Now it's just like, yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, do
And
that.
that's
Just see where it gets
that's
you.
that's the thing too, man, where it's like I want to be like you when I get to 50. I want the younger guys to tell me, "Bro, you look like you're 40, not 50."
Right. Yeah,
Right?
no
But
doubt.
like people don't see that. They
Huh.
don't see the hours that you put into the gym. They don't see you going to the fucking CrossFit workouts on Saturday morning with your wife. They don't see you taking the extra 30 minutes to pack your lunch
Yeah,
instead of figuring out what you're going to eat at noon and then sliding into the BK drive-through. They don't see
exactly.
that.
Exactly.
They don't see it, and it's years and years and years on top of years of repetition and doing it. Like you're not just gonna get 50 and then 3 weeks from now be like, wow, I look a lot younger now. I've been eating
Yeah.
clean for a couple days and I'm working
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
No,
Heck yeah.
this shit starts in your 20s. People don't
Yeah, no
understand
doubt.
that.
And that was me. Like I said, I don't drink anymore. I quit drinking 22 years ago. Like, I don't touch the shit. I quit because I was not good at it or I was really good at it. I never figured that out. It was one of them deals where I was either real good at it or I was not good at
In the
it. And I
same
don't
fucking
have
way,
that
dude.
mentality. I don't have that mentality. Like, I don't do something halfway. Like, you say, hey, Buster, we're going to go get a 12-pack of beer and drink beer this afternoon and cook out, and be like, no, let's get 2 cases of beer.
Hmm.
Because when we start, we're going to fucking do it.
Yep.
Like, then we might go from there. We not drink 2 cases of beer cooking out, and we might go to the bar and close the bar down. And that's my mentality. By God, we're gonna do something, we're gonna do it all out and do it all in. And that's just my personality. And so when I quit drinking, I had to have something to replace that. And
Yep.
so and this is the funny story. It cracks people up, but I tell them this. I was running that ranch I ran for 16 years. Well, I had a little 2-car garage. Of course, I never parked in it. It was a storage facility, more or less. And I had box freezers in there, and that's where all my junk was, some tools and whatnot. But anyways, I decided I was going to ranch rodeos, and we were going every weekend. And I was riding 2 broncs every weekend and mugging 2 cows. And I was fat and out of shape, and I'd been drinking, and I just beat up all the time. And I'm just like, man, I can't do this and keep doing this. This sucks. And so I'm like, I'm gonna quit, and I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna get in shape. And of course, I was an athlete growing up. I knew how to do it, and so I ordered the P90X, the first one that came out.
Old school, baby. Let's
Old
go.
school, brother. And so in the garage, I took some black pipe and I made me a chin-up bar and I screwed it to the ceiling of the garage. And then went and bought me a Bowflex at a garage sale.
Hell
And then
yeah.
I bought me a set of dumbbells and a yoga mat. And I went to the pawn shop and bought one of those little TVs, like a little TV with a CD player in it. And I put it on top of my box freezer, plugged it in, and that's what I started doing. And of course, it's hotter than a bastard. I mean, like in that garage, there wasn't no air, there wasn't nothing. You could slide the old wooden door open, you know. And so in the afternoons, when I'd get done with work, I'd go in and I'd put my shorts on and I'd walk back out to the garage and I would work out. I would do the P90X workout. Well, of course, I did the 90X and I think I weighed 252, if I remember correctly, when I started P90X. And when I got done, I weighed 197.
Let's go.
And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm back. I felt good. Then I was like, all right, now I got something because I was competing in ranch rodeos pretty heavily, going to a lot of ropings, a lot of double muggings, a lot of physical activities, a lot of bronc ridings and that kind of stuff. Well, then I started seeing the results, and I'm like, okay. And then everybody else started seeing the results. I'd show up somewhere, and them guys would be like, there he is, you know, and like they might not say that to me, but I knew in their mind because when I left with there all the prizes, all the money, like I was getting them, and I was honing my skills and but being in shape made those skills even that much better, that much sharper. I could go like I mean, like it didn't matter. Where those other guys that were drinking and smoking and running around and not getting enough sleep and not taking care of themselves, I just left them in the dust, you know. I mean, there was
Mhm.
no there they couldn't keep up. There just wasn't no way. And so that's kind of when I started seeing the jealousy start showing up as I was going and kicking their ass, you know, going, then they start talking shit. Oh, that guy, he lucky or he drew good or oh yeah, drew good year after year after year, you know, and I'm the oldest guy. When you show up and you're the oldest guy and you leave with the money, it says something. And
Mhm.
that's another quote I heard. Always be wary of the old man doing something young men still do.
Love
When
that.
that man shows up, you better watch out. I don't care when the old men are still competing with the young men and they show up to the competition, you better watch that old son of a bitch because he not only is he still able to compete with the young guys, he's got that much more knowledge, mentality, and that's where a lot of the winning effort comes from. That's where a lot of the winning comes from is that mentality, knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And then if you have the body and the physicality to keep up with the young guys, you're deadly. You're dangerous.
Over. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
over
you're
after that.
dangerous
Hmm.
because they're still trying to figure out the little steps to make it easier when that old man's already figured it out. And so when you get to that point, it's like, all right, yeah, okay. And I'm still that way. If I walk into a gym and there's an old man in there that's jacked, that guy's dangerous. That guy's got a lot of knowledge, and that's the guy I want to be around. That's the guy I want to talk to. That's the guy I want to work out with. That's the guy I want to go run with. That's the guy that, hey, says, hey, you want to come down and yeah, heck yeah. Because those guys know what's up. And that's what
Yeah.
I want to be that guy. I want to be that old guy that when some 25-year-old walks in the gym, I'm over in the corner doing my little whatever it is. And they look over and go, damn, look at that old man. He's jacked. Wonder how long he's been doing this for a long time. I mean, hell, I've been working out for in my workout and my regimen came out of the gym. I got bored once I did P90X. I got bored with working out on Bowflex. I just outgrew it, and so then I went down to the YMCA. I got me a membership at the YMCA. I got a workout area now. I got free weights. I got more availability to do different things and learn different things. And so I did that for 7, 8 years. And then I went from there. When I moved, I went to a I went to a guy that was a trainer and I went to working out with him and just like making friends with him and trying to figure out and hone it down to even a little more finite where, okay, if you do this, if I didn't know what branch chain amino acids were, I didn't know what good protein was. I was buying protein at Walmart, I mean, like, and then you just keep increasing your knowledge, and then he's like, hey, you need to start eating a little better. We'll look at, what's your macros? And I'm like, what the hell's macros? I don't know what that is. Well, then you learn that. And then it's like, okay, well, if you want to get lean, then you back off back this off your macros. If you want to gain, then you add two, it's just like, trying to, it's just like reading a book, you know, the more
Hmm.
you read, the better you are, the better educated you are, the better you can do for yourself. And that's cool, you know. I mean, I think that's an awesome deal. Like, and then you just everything increases, your mentality increases, you figure out, okay, well, we can do this and we can do this to do this, you know, and it's like, and then those injuries are less, they're fewer and farther between. And then when you do have an injury, because you're, you know, if you do what we do, you're eventually going to have an injury. I mean, I ride bucking horses. And so, like, I'm horseback. I rode freaking 2,000 pound bulls outside in the pasture running 30 miles an hour. You're going to have wrecks. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have stuff that comes up that take another guy 6 months to recover from. And me, it took me 3 months because
Yep.
I had the availability, the knowledge, and I was already physically fit whenever it happened. And so it's like those that makes a huge return in your investment because of that fact right there. And that was another reason I kept working out and kept trying to be better and kept trying to get stronger and kept trying to get in better shape was because I mean eventually you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna blow your knee out, you're gonna break your arm, you're gonna break your leg. I mean, I've had my back broke and three vertebrae broke, I've had my neck broke, I've had my femur broke, I've had three knee surgeries, had both biceps torn off the bone, this one torn in half. I mean, like, it's just it's one of those deals, but I come back stronger because I know how to do it.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that too, because you're seeking these types of people out. Like no matter how successful you are, how good you are at a certain thing, there's always somebody that has more knowledge in that field, and there's always somebody that's better than you. And the key is, like you're saying, is to find these people, make friends with them, inquire with them. Hey, can I come over? Hey, can we work out together? Whatever. I do the same thing with hunting,
Heck yeah,
right? I grew up hunting up north. Well, now I moved out west. It's fucking totally different style.
totally
So,
different.
so now I got all these guys. Like, I won't just go hunting with anybody. I won't do it. I want to go with guys that are killing shit consistently year after year. They're better than me. I want to get to their level.
Yeah,
That's why, like, I have like a group of 4 or 5 different guys that I'll go hunt with. They're all way better hunters than me.
exactly,
That's how I learn.
exactly.
I'm not too proud to be like, bro, I don't, how do, how do we get over there? Or like,
Right.
where are these elk? Like, I don't, dude, I'm new.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Like it's one of the things where it's like I got no pride, like no shame in this game, brother. Like help me,
Help
help me.
me. Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Now,
And
if they
that,
want to
that
come do something in the gym, they'll seek me out, right? Like I'm better at certain fields than them, and vice
yeah,
versa, right? So,
it goes back to that quote I heard, and I'd heard it quite a while ago. Surround yourself with people that are better than you because you are the average of the five people you hang around.
yep,
And that's
absolutely.
the truth.
Hmm.
You can, I mean, like you hang around a bunch of low life, derelict drug users, you're going to be the average of that. If
Yep.
you hang around a bunch of billionaires and that's all you're around, you're going to be the average of that. You know, you figure out what niche you want to be in. If you want to be the best calf roper that you can be, go find the best five calf ropers that you can hang out with.
Yep.
And that's going to increase as time goes on because you're the first five you find, you're going to outgrow them if you're going to freaking really go for it. And then you're going to find the next five, and then you're going to find the best five, and they're going to be taking you in and going, hey, come go with me. I'll show you how to enter rodeos. I'll show you how to ride your horses. I'll show you what horses we need. You know, all the tricks and trade that made them the top five in the world or whatever it may be. So it's just like you hunting. And then it's just like me. When I put a crew together to go brand calves somewhere, I hire guys that are better than me because when I show up, I don't want to have to be in charge. I want to have to go, hey, appreciate it, you know, and there I want people to go, gosh, dang, I want
Hmm.
people around me that are better. If you're hanging out with people that aren't as good as you, then what are you going to learn from them?
Yep.
If you're hanging around people that don't have as much knowledge, what the fuck are you going to learn from them?
Hmm.
Nothing. I want to hang around people that have more knowledge, that have better skills, and that have better attitudes than me. That's who I
Hmm.
want to be around.
And
And
what's awesome about that, not to cut you off, but like I'm sure you're pretty fucking good at branding calves too.
yes,
So
sir.
if you're the worst person in that group, that's a pretty motherfucking good group, right?
Yes, sir. And that's how
Yeah.
you put together a team, you know. That's how you put together the best team in the world. You find everybody that's better than you, and then everybody just comes together and it meshes, and there's nobody bullshit that comes up that it's so cool. And a lot of time guys have egos or got, you know, they don't want to be around guys that are better than them. They want to be the best. Well, then they show up with a fucking crew that ain't worth a shit. you don't get another job because you're the only one that could do anything. Like I want to be the low man on the totem pole. I want to be the man that's not as good as everybody else. And that's the way, I mean, in my life, that's what I do. I try to put those teams together. Whether we're on the movie set and we've been working on a movie set, and I took literally 12 guys with me that I hired that when they would let me hire them. And one of the other guys that was on the set, he's from out in New Mexico. And when those guys showed up, he looked at me and he said, "Ah, damn, would you hire the best every top hand in Texas?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure did."
Fuck
He
yeah.
was like, "Fuck." Like, I mean, he didn't know them, but he knew them when they walked in. Like he knew who those guys were because he had heard their reputation. And he was like, "God damn, did you hire the best? Did you hire the top 10 hands in Texas?" I'm like, "Yep, I did." And that's, because I was the boss of them. I was the one in charge of it, hiring them. Well, why would I hire people that are lesser? I mean, I want to show up and I want my name to go, "Hey, those guys did a fabulous job." And everybody that was around them said the same thing. "I've never been around guys like that. I've never worked around a crew like that. That is impressive as hell." From the people that had never seen it to the people that were always around it. They're like, "Man, I've never been around a crew like that. That is unbelievable." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool when you see the top guys in their field do their deal. It's pretty cool." Whether it be football. I mean, that's the NFL. That's the All Stars. That's MLB. That's the professional league guys. They're the best in their field. That's why they're there. And Cowboys are the same way. Hunters are the same way. You can name 10 guys off that are badass hunters, and that's those guys that you get to hang out with.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter whether you're in Alaska, it doesn't matter whether you're in Mexico, it doesn't matter whether you're in New York, it doesn't matter whether you're in West Texas. Those guys have the knowledge to hunt and do what they need to do to get what they need to get.
Yeah.
And that's cool, man. That's who I want to hang out with.
Yeah. Well fucking said, Buster. And what's also I think important to kind of add to that is that when you're putting these teams together or you're on these jobs or whatever it might be, you got one fucking crack at it. Like first impressions are everything, dude.
No doubt.
Everything. Like especially with my background, you probably don't know this. I used to be a cop. And it's like, dude, you step out that car, it's on right now. Like they're gonna
Mhm.
look you from your fucking boots up to your haircut. Be like, can I try this motherfucker or not? Am I gonna run or am I not gonna run? Am I gonna do what this fucking guy says? Or am I not gonna do what this guy says? You get one shot at it. Same thing when you're putting together crews on movie sets. You bring a bunch of derelicts. I love that you said that term too. My dad says that. Fucking love that term. People are probably like, what the fuck? About to Google it. But you bring a bunch of dickheads on set, they're not calling you back for season two.
No, sir.
You got one fucking crack at it.
One shot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Eminem sings a song about that, don't he? You got one shot.
Well, hell yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
well, you didn't
Michigan.
think my old ass even knew about that,
I respect it, man. He's a Michigan boy like myself. I love Eminem.
huh? Yeah, hell yeah.
Let's see, man. I'm having a blast. We're about just an hour, maybe a little bit longer, and we'll
Yeah,
cut it,
yeah.
man. You fucking remind me so much of my own man, just the way you talk and the way you think, and then I also feel like we have a lot of shit in common too, even though we got 20 years in between us, man. It's cool.
For sure. Right back at you. For that, yeah. It's cool. Like I met a guy just last weekend and a friend of mine that I'm really good friends with, like he's in that handful of he'll help you bury bodies or he'll help you drag your body out of a hole, kind of one of
Yep.
those guys. And he's been telling me, he said, "I need to introduce you to this guy. I need to introduce you to this guy." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, we'll run across each other one day." And we finally ran across each other. And he told me, he said, "Y'all are like brothers." He said, "Y'all be like brothers." And he said, "It's crazy how much y'all are alike." And I met him this last weekend. And sure enough, so it's like, and I told him when I left the deal, I was like, "Man, I feel like we've known each other forever." And I feel that same way, like that vibe
Yeah.
towards you. Because there's a lot of same mutual issues, mutual respect, mutual tendencies, mutual way that, just the way you carry yourself. And like, it's cool. Like, I like being around guys like you. I like hanging out, whether you're 20 years younger or 20 years older. I mean, there's a vibe that you can feel and you can tell like that's you, my people. I
My
mean, like
man.
I can tell that through the computer screen, just bullshitting with you. Then we could hook up and go and be like we'd known each other all our whole lives. So that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I'll do my best to bury you in the gym, see how I do.
You probably kick my
I
I'd be over
noticed,
there.
is your bicep fucked up? You said you tore it off the bone. I noticed your right
Yeah.
arm when you were talking with your hands earlier.
Yeah. So I like tore the end of my bicep off and
Yeah.
tore it off the bone. And like I went 8 months without ever getting it fixed
Yeah,
because of
because
the
your
like,
bicep starts like fucking halfway up your
yeah.
arm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like I tore that much of it off pretty
Yep.
much.
Yeah, I was saying it was
And
missing.
like you can
Yep.
see it like that right there. Like
Mm.
it'll gun up here, but like that much of it's missing. So it
Yep.
was yeah, I tore it up. I tore the end of it off, and I felt it when it tore off. I thought it cramped real bad, and then I felt it come off the bone. I tore that lower tendon off the bone, and I knew it came off because I was rolling doing some jiu-jitsu with this one, and a guy arm barred me and popped this one off the bone. I was trying to hold it and not let him arm bar me, and it blowed it off the bone. And so I knew that feeling. But when this one did it, it felt like my bicep just cramped real hard and then it came off the bone. And so I was like, man, and I just started that job on 1883. And so I was like, man, I need this job really bad. And so I just went back to work and I went 8 months without getting it fixed. I put one of those neoprene sleeves on it and then I
Yep.
KT taped it or I'd KT tape it. I'd rub DMSO and lidocaine and like try to numb it and keep it where I could work during the day. I went to the surgeon and I was like, "Hey, can you think you can fix this?" And he was like, "When'd you do it?" And I told him, and he was like, "Buster," he was like, "That's like a 4 week deal." He said, "When that tendon comes through that sheath," he said, "that sheath draws down," and he said, "It's hard to get it back through there." He said, "I can try." He said, "Let me see what I can do." And so I was like, "If you can make it better," of course, it was wadded up here the whole time, that whole 8 months, like it was just loose wadded up here, so I couldn't really tell that it was torn in half. And when he went in there, he told me it was going to be about an hour and a half surgery, to fix it back. And it was like a 4.5 hour surgery. When I woke up, it was dark outside, and I was like, "What the hell happened? Like, what's going on?" And he was like, "Dude, your whole bicep was torn in half." And he was like, "Your end of your bicep was in there, and it was rotten." And he said, "I had to order some tissue from the tissue bank." And he said the tab in there was gone, and I had to build the tab and put that tendon back on and pull it back down. And he was like, "That's as good as I can get it." And I'm like, "Well," and at that time, of course, it was swollen up real bad all the way down into here. And so it looked like it was a full bicep. And then when it swelling went down, I'm like, "Where the hell did my bicep go?" And of course, me being right-handed, this one was a lot bigger and stronger than my left one. So then I'm like, I don't know, like little
Yeah.
Popeye bicep up there, but it works. It is what it is. I just got a cool story about it. So
Yeah. Yeah, no shit. You mind if we circle back something real quick, kind of end it
no,
on
go.
a little bit more of
Yeah,
a serious note?
yeah, go.
You commented, you were like, "Hey, I haven't drank in 22 years. I don't know if I was really good at it or really bad at it. Probably a combination of both." Can you, because I know like a lot of guys and maybe even girls like have struggled with some sort of, not saying you were like an alcoholic or anything like
I
that, but
was, yeah.
were you? Were you?
I
Okay.
was. I wasn't one of those guys that had to get up and have a drink in the morning to function. I was one of those guys where I was what they call a binge. I guess I binged on it. So like when I cracked a beer, I could go all day, I could go all week, never drink a beer. But on Friday afternoon, when I crack that beer, it's kind of went back to that. It's like we're full on. Like it's full
Yeah.
on. It's like we're gonna do it till we can't do it no more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind
What?
of where I was in my drinking stage, I guess, alcoholism, whatever you want to call it. And I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I'm very, very aware of it now. Yeah, I had a problem when it first kind of popped its head up, and I'm like, man, I'm not alcoholic. In my mind, an alcoholic was that old man that as soon as he got up, he had a shot of whiskey, and then he just drank the rest of the day, all day to function. I was that guy. Hell, I could go work, and I could outwork most everybody, anybody. But I think I did that too to punish myself because I knew like the night before I drank beer and closed the bar down. And so the next day to prove everybody that I wasn't hungover or prove everybody that I was tougher than everybody else, I'd outwork your ass. Like I'm like, fine, I'll be hungover, I'll be throwing up and still outwork your ass. You know what I mean? Like, God, why'd I do this? And then 2 days later, I'm back doing it again. So that'll kind of give you an idea about who I was or what I was with my drinking. But go ahead, I'll let you ask your question.
No, was there like a wake up call where you're just like, fuck, I need to make a change?
Yeah, I was laying on a metal bunk in a jail. for an extended period of time. The Texas State Department of Justice said, "Hey, bud, you got to quit this shit. We can't." Yeah, I always tell everybody, I'm like, Texas has a very convincing way of making you fucking quit drinking if they decide
Yeah.
to, and you're smart enough to understand it. Yeah, I was laying on a metal bunk with a fucking sheet and a pillow about that thin, and knew I was going to be there for another 45 days. And I was like, man, what in the fuck am I doing here? I
Yeah.
mean, in a pod, in a cell, and then, yeah, they have a way, they have a very convincing way of doing it. And I got real deep with myself. I got real honest with myself. And like one of them deals where it's like a awakening that, hey, the only reason I'm here is because of, and we go back all the way to the start of this conversation, the choices that I made. That's the only reason I'm here. My parents raised me better than this. I'm a better person than this. I know the rules. I know the reason I'm here. And the only person's fault is mine. That's it. It's not the cop that pulled me over because I had a tail light out on my trailer. It's not the girl that pissed me off or not my girlfriend that made broke up with me and I went to the bar and got wild and got drunk. The only reason I'm here is because of the choices that I made. And that's it. I got real honest with myself. I got real deep and I was like, I will never, ever, ever be back in a jail cell because of drinking. Now, I might be back in here because I whooped somebody's ass, or I might be back in here because I killed somebody that did something to somebody, something of that nature. But I will never be back in here for alcohol charges or drinking, period. And I told myself that, and I was very honest with myself, and I made that promise to myself. And I guess and I didn't want to break that. It's like I learned too that my mom loves me because she's my mom. My dad loves me because he's my dad. My sisters are always going to love me. My girlfriend or my wife, they're going to put up with me to a point where they can't anymore. My aunts, my uncles, there's going to be that core group of people that no matter what you tell them, no matter what you do, they're always still going to love you. Well, that's gets to a point where you start seeing them kind of twist off of that, like, gosh damn, like pull your head out of your ass, and kind of get right. Let's get right. And you start losing a few of those here and you start losing a few of those there. And so you can promise your mom, I'll quit drinking. I'm going to quit drinking. You don't want me to drink. I'm going to quit drinking. You can promise anybody you want that you're going to quit drinking. And that's promises to them. But when you make that promise to yourself, you can break that promise to your girlfriend or your ex-wife or whatever it may be or whatever, and then you can get away from it. You can go somewhere else and do it. And maybe they might find out, maybe they don't find out. I know every minute, every second, every hour of every day what I do. I know. And so I've made that promise to myself. Like I'm not doing this for anybody else. I'm not doing this for my girlfriend. I'm not doing this for my mom. I'm not doing this for my family. I'm doing this for me. And that's the only way I think I ever made it through, is because I made that promise to myself and I was doing it for myself. And that might be selfish, but and I think with alcohol or any kind of drug addiction or any kind of addiction whatsoever, until you make that promise to yourself and until you do it for yourself, it doesn't matter who you say you're going to do it for until you say you're going to do it for yourself and you hold yourself accountable. And that's what I did. And I quit 22 years ago and then touched it since. And it's been it was the best decision I ever made in my life. No doubt about it. Because from there up, my life went back to where I thought it should be. And it's a hard realization to come to. And a lot of guys will never, ever come to it. And a lot of guys struggle with it, especially in my industry in the cowboy world, because you're not a cowboy unless you're drinking whiskey and smoking Marlboro Reds. And it's like not necessarily the case. Like you'd be a better cowboy if you wasn't hungover or drunk or freaking could breathe. I mean, you think about
Mhm.
it, what we do is physical. I mean, you think many guys in the NFL are smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey every night? Not very long. Maybe back in the old days, maybe back old days. But nowadays, those guys are like top-notch athletes doing everything scientifically possible to make them the best human being they can be. Mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. Spiritually. I mean, there's guys like I watch a lot of those. Netflix, I guess, like the receiver and the quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
and like that. I've been watching the receiver Netflix show with Sam Kitley. That guy talks to himself, which is a weird thing, but he talks to himself positive.
George Kittle?
Yeah, George Kittle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
You
I
know, in
watched it
that
too.
show, he's talking to himself before the game. He's telling himself, like, I
Mm-hmm.
am inhale, what does he say? Inhale excellence, exhale fear, you know, and he's telling himself that out. He's making it come out of his mouth. And I think that's something a lot of people should do, you know. I mean, like if you want to do something, speak about it, talk about it, tell people about it. Because if you just have it in your mind and you don't have any, it kind of goes back to that accountability. If I don't tell you something, hey, I'm going to do this, and you don't hold me accountable. Hey, I thought you said you were going to do this. Thought you were going to be able to, bench 240, 10 reps next month. Well, you ain't even been to the gym this month. You're holding me accountable. And so unless you vocalize whatever your goals are, you got them in here, you can let them slip around and you can let them disappear. But if you vocalize them to somebody or vocalize them to people or write them down and see it and say it every day, you'll forget it and it'll slip. And so that's pretty cool. I was watching him do that. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
pretty damn cool.
It works too.
It works. You're damn right. It works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
Yeah, for
works.
sure.
Man, this has been great. I get asked a lot like what podcasts I listen to, and honestly not a whole lot. One of them that I do listen to frequently though is the Sean Ryan show. Have you listened to that
Yes,
at
sir.
all?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I like I'm a student of the game, right? Like anybody can have a podcast, but to have a good one, like you have to get better at it. And I think that he does a really good job. So I'm going to steal a thing that he tends to ask his guests at the end, and ask you, give me three people that you feel like would be a good fit for my podcast after, seeing how I kind of host the show and stuff.
All right. I think Dale Brisby, you know Dale?
I
You
know
ever
who
heard
he
Dale?
is. I know who he
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Dale would be a very good one. Um, Kit Cope.
Who?
Kit Cope. He's an ex special forces guy and he fought in the UFC a little bit and now he coaches. He's one of Nick Diaz's coaches when he fought year ago, I guess, or one of the last fights Nick has been in. He was one
Okay.
of his coaches. Kit's very, very good. Like, of course, you got your military background, then you got the fight scene, and then you got the coach scene. So he got all of that. The Kit's, and he's out of Vegas. He might be hard to get a hold of, but I think he's still online, but he's a cool cat. And man, you put me on the spot. That's two. Uh, Tyson Durfee.
Durfee.
Durfee, Durfey. Tyson is a PRC multiple NFR qualifier, world champion calf roper. Lives down here from me, but he's retired. I think he retired last year. He kind of blowed his knee out the year before and got finished for the year. Maybe went back, but Tyson's one of those guys. He's been down the road. He's been there. He's done that. Now he's really into like self help coaching, like and very 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 sharp. Dale's the same way. Dale Brisby. Everybody thinks he's kind of just a goofball, kind of. But Dale is once you get real serious with Dale, he's pretty sharp. He come from nothing and made something, which everybody can say that, I guess, if you've ever done anything successful. But Dale's very cool at it. Kid like that. Those are three guys that would be. I think you would have and Dale's kind of got into the hunting. He's
Yep. He was on Cam's podcast, right?
yeah, I was gonna say we with Cam, and hell, he might be with Cam right now, actually, like on their hunt, because I saw him post a picture of a bull that he killed yesterday. And so yeah, that'd be three guys that I think you ought to talk to. That'd be cool because I figure you'd done the Cam deal and the Sean Ryan and all those guys, but those would be three cool guys to visit with.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Before I let you slide, where can people kind of follow what it is that you're doing?
Man, you can go on Buster Frierson Instagram. I'm on Instagram as Buster Frierson. Facebook the same way. I'm not on Twitter, none of that, but like Facebook and Instagram, just Google Buster Frierson and I'll pop up somewhere.
This was a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate you doing this. And Yeah, every, dude, I can't stress it enough. When I don't know anything about somebody, the conversations are always so much better.
I agree. I agree. I
Yeah.
think it off the cuff's pretty cool. Like you can just fly by the seat of your pants, and that's kind of like how I live, anyways. Like
Yep.
somebody will say, "Where you going?" "Oh, I'm going to go work on a movie," and then they call me 2 months later, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm in Arizona chasing lions," and they're like, "Well, what the hell? What?" Like, yeah, it's just me, man. I just try to, I'm living. I mean,
Hell yeah.
about like I say, I turned 50 in April, and I don't know how many years I got left, but I'm going to try to live it up best I can.
No, you're doing it right, man. I appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot from you, so thank you.
Heck yeah, right back at you. I get back to Montana. If they call me up there, I'll holler at you. I'd love to come hang out, shake your hand in person, meet you.
You already know that. Stay on the line. We'll small talk for a second. I'll get you out of here, bro.
Right on, brother. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.